Alright, before jumping into the Ring of Elysium review, a few words about today's video sponsor. I am happy to be working with the Massdrop community commerce platform, which provides great deals on a pretty wide range of products, but specifically gaming hardware as well. They have lower prices than Amazon in a lot of instances, so feel free to check out the general link to their platform down below. More specifically, I have been using the Sennheiser PC37X headphones for the past few days, which can be found on their site, and it's a really good headset. I could rattle off some of the specs and describe all of the details of why they are good, but a lot of viewers won't care about that really. Instead, I will just say that within the past year, I've had 5 different headsets. One had a bad mic, one was uncomfortable, a couple didn't have good audio direction, and were bad for FPS games, and so on and so forth. But the 37Xs, which were sent to me by the Massdrop community commerce platform, are easily the best set that I have used and are now my primary pair for all gaming, recording, and streaming needs. Check out Massdrop and the 37Xs down below if you want to support the channel in a different way, as well as upgrade your own gaming setup at a better price. But now on to the actual video. Ring of Elysium, yet another battle royale trying to put its own twist on the genre and capture some of the player base that has been piling into the field for the past couple of years. The game gains major points right off the bat since it is free to play. That should be recognized since not a whole lot of the current battle royales are. The game is produced by Tencent, a Chinese company that is also responsible for the mobile version of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and it does show. The game bears striking similarities to PUBG, or any other battle royale for that matter, and I'm surprised there aren't any lawsuits filed yet. I'm kind of kidding, but after the whole Fortnite versus PUBG crap, I'm also kind of not kidding. Ring of Elysium seeks to differentiate itself from the horde of competing battle royales, with new ones launching almost daily, but I find myself worried that it simply does not do enough. There is a fairly in-depth character customization interface, but when the vast majority of the game sees a player's face covered with a helmet, the character panel feels more like a copy-paste that belongs in an MMORPG, more so than a battle royale. Still, it doesn't really hurt to have it. The game also features 3 distinct archetypes, each with a unique ability. One has a glider, allowing for faster transit through the air. Another has a snowboard, letting a player quickly traverse downhill. This one is by far my personal favorite. And the third has a set of climbing tools that allow for navigation of mountain or rocky terrain in very specific locations. In concept, these additions are pretty cool, but it quickly becomes clear that the most useful, at least to me, is the snowboard class. It can be used almost anywhere and does not really even require a steep incline for fast travel. The other two just feel far too situational and were hardly ever of real use, which felt disappointing since this is one of the major areas where the game sought to find its own identity. The initial player drop sequence takes a turn from traditional battle royales, allowing players to not only directly choose from a tile set where they want to land, but also to see where exactly other players are landing as well. I simultaneously like and dislike this method for a few reasons, but in the end, it's purely subjective. On the one hand, you can clearly tell how many are near you and whether or not it's a hotspot. On the other hand, the ability to look around while dropping in other battle royales, as you descend maybe slower or faster intentionally, and thus a reduction in the amount of information that players are constantly gleaning from their environment, makes it feel a little strange to have the Ring of Elysium system. Once you are on the ground in-game, however, there are 2 distinct personalities that the game takes on. The first one is a decently paced loot system that lets you gear up fast and with simplicity, since there is an auto attachment feature and the loot is plentiful. The second personality, though, is ridiculous lag and FPS drops that make the game completely unplayable at times. Here is a clip of how the game normally runs and how I experience things for the majority of my sessions. Here is a clip of what sometimes inexplicably just happens and then worsens the longer you play. I've talked to quite a few people about this, and it appears that about 2/3 of players don't experience this issue hardly at all, or more often they only experience it after a great many consecutive games, and simply restarting the client usually fixes the problem. But the other third of players, some worse off than what I had to deal with, encounter this type of issue pretty much every single match. It will kick in after maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and once it's there, it just gets worse and worse and worse. I've been through my system backwards and forwards. There is no background process, no malfunction, no conceivable reason for these FPS drops to happen. Worse yet, at the precise moment, more often than not, when you first engage in a firefight. And the good news is that a lot of players don't run into the problem, or when they do, it is at least quite rare. But the bad news is that some players do encounter it, and it makes the game a frustrating, damaged, and unpleasant experience when they do. In the end, it's free, so there is literally no downside to trying it, but it warranted a mention that some players will encounter unplayable FPS drops and lag at this stage. There will likely be extensive optimization beyond this point as well, so consider that too if anyone ends up watching this review in the future when things have been cleaned up. But right now, it is a bit of an issue. Assuming everything works fine, which is true for most players, the gunplay is very, very smooth. On a scale of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds to Call of Duty, it actually feels closer to Call of Duty in a way, and that's actually a positive in this scenario. The hitboxes feel right, the bullet registration works well, and in most battle royales, the feeling of what the I just shot him, where did my bullet go, is prevalent, but in Ring of Elysium, it's not so much. You hit what you aim at, which is refreshing, and the same cannot be said for some competitors. In any battle royale, there will be a built-in mechanic to force players to battle more and more frequently as the map closes up. Ring of Elysium does this a bit differently by closing off one large section all at once and using a freezing cold blizzard to do so rather than a shrinking circle. I like this approach, some may not, but it helps a bit with the predictability of other games. It also helps that vehicles are plentiful and travel speeds can be augmented by both the glider and the snowboard, so even when trapped across the map as the storm closes, it leaves behind the sense of hopelessness that other games kind of have. Or worse yet, the need to actually get super lucky in order to find a vehicle or you just flat out die. Ring of Elysium does that system a little bit better. As the game narrows down, the map will eventually close off to one single section and players will all be revealed to one another. By this stage, a helicopter has approached that has 4 seats on it, which holds some similarities to the survival mode in Tom Clancy's The Division, and also some resemblance to Fear the Wolves, yet another competing battle royale which utilizes the method. Players don't necessarily need to eliminate every single other participant, but it's usually what ends up happening anyway. However it happens, the storm drives any remaining players to extract, and then the round is over. All in all, individual games are pretty quick, and it can take quite a bit less time than the other battle royales on the market. It's up to the individual whether or not speed is a plus or a minus, but Ring of Elysium pairs its pacing with easy and plentiful looting, which means less of a mid-game lull that other titles can suffer from. Vehicle physics are pretty good. You won't be flipping through the air after tapping a tiny rock, which is good for quality of life, and grenades work really well too. They also have an organic feeling detonation radius. Airdrops have good loot, like almost every other battle royale in existence, and all of it meshes together to make a pretty solid entry into the genre. There is a cosmetic system which will undoubtedly be expanded upon soon, seeing as the game is free to play. That's an inevitability, and as long as they stay away from any sort of mechanically functional items being included in a paid feature, they won't drive a wedge into their player base or spark outrage, so that seems pretty safe. What it all comes down to at this stage is that the game has decent gameplay, but for some players, at the moment, it's wildly inconsistent. This is me loading into one round. And here I am loading into the very next round with no changes whatsoever. There are some fun encounters, but you can get a nearly identical experience for maybe a dozen competing titles with 1 or 2 different little gimmicks as hooks. While it is more polished than most of its competition, it still has a ways to go, and I catch myself wondering if there really is anything here other than just yet another battle royale, another trend-hopping game that came out after the peak. There is room for it to grow, I guess, and by far the best draw is the free-to-play tag. Not a lot of Battle Royale games are free right now, and the ones that are have distinct personalities. Ring of Elysium is unlike the other specifically free-to-play versions, but is there really that large of a crowd that prefers PUBG-style realism over Fortnite's art style and building, but has not yet purchased PUBG itself? I kind of keep asking myself that question. Ring of Elysium kind of feels like what PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds should have been at launch, or at least further down the road of what it should have resembled in terms of polish, but PUBG has since expanded on content drastically, and while some may not fully approve of its development process, it now stands in a different position. In the end, there is absolutely no reason not to try Ring of Elysium if you are a Battle Royale fan. Better yet, if you have not been a Battle Royale fan up till now, maybe try it simply because it is free and it could be your no-strings-attached glimpse into the genre. In that regard, it may be the leader, a free-to-play starter for prospective Battle Royale fans, but with Blackout just down the road, the amount of content that PUBG has slowly added, and the unique and diverging identity of Fortnite and some of the other entries, Ring of Elysium really does not do all that much to carve out its own space. If they expand the class system, that could be really interesting. New modes maybe, something like that, and it will probably siphon off enough of a player base to remain active and successful, but gamers are often interested in what will be the next big thing, and I can't stop this feeling that Ring of Elysium is decidedly not it. It's just another Battle Royale in an oversaturated field, admittedly one with a large backer and a great deal of resources, but not much else at the moment. There really will be some sort of collapse in the Battle Royale genre sooner rather than later. I have my eye on a game called Spellbreak, which incorporates fantasy elements, spell weaving and combinations, and maybe some other less anticipated mechanics into the Battle Royale space, but currently it's under NDA, so I can't say much more on the topic. Something like that can form an identity, but Ring of Elysium itself has little in the way of actual innovation. At some point, these cloned games will be dead on arrival. What do all of you think about the game and its competition? I may sound overly pessimistic, seeing as Ring of Elysium does have some unique elements. It has quality gunplay and will serve up enjoyment, especially due to its free-to-play nature, to many gamers. But in such a crowded field, I personally have started to expect innovation, identity, and other vertical genre momentum, not just horizontal coasting. My final recommendation is try it. By all means, it costs you nothing, but for those who like the concept already, you will probably end up going with something else like Fortnite or Blackout or PUBG or Islands of Nine or Fear of the Wolves, The Culling, H1Z1 Survival, Hunt Showdown, Realm Royale, and on and on and on the list goes, but it doesn't hurt to try. Again, I want to thank our sponsor Massdrop for working with the channel. The link down below to their platform will save gamers money. So regardless of your thoughts on me or the channel or this video, clicking that link can only benefit you and save some money. But it also benefits the channel, by the way. If you are in the market for an audio upgrade, the Sennheiser PC37Xs are top of the line and can be found on the platform as well. And I will personally be utilizing both Massdrop and the headset for quite a while to come. As always, there are other links in the description to consider if you want to get more involved at Upper Echelon. We have a Facebook group, a Discord server, I stream on Twitch once in a while, there is a merchandise store, and much, much more, so take a look if you want, but I'll cut it there. Thank you for watching the video, and as always, have a nice night.